All right. Hi, everybody. I am Chucky, and this is the Street Epistemology live show. I've got Janosch here and Lisa, and we are here to take your questions about SE, to explore claims live. If you have a claim that you want to explore with one of us, we're not gonna gang up on you. It's just gonna be one-on-one. And otherwise, we're gonna be talking about SE today. How's it going, everybody?
Good. How are you?
Good. How are you, Lisa?
I'm doing great.
Excellent.
Already did a SE meeting today. It's been fun. So my SE
Right.
day.
You were telling us before we started that you just came from your Street Epistemology meetup. Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you
We
want
have
to
a
tell
meetup
us
here
about that?
Yeah. We've been doing this meetup here in Salt Lake City for a couple of months. It started in December. So we're just kind of getting started and getting going. And we have a couple of people who are regulars, and mostly it's new people, but we meet every other Saturday in real life, like face to face. It's pretty weird and also fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because we've been in touch before a little bit because I have this German language practice group, and we meet up also on a we used to meet up on a weekly basis, and now some people ask for an additional time during the week, so it's twice a week. Not
Cool.
everyone will be there on both dates, of course, but yeah. So, and
How long have you been doing that?
We've been doing that for almost 1.5 years now.
Oh, wow.
And we started at the beginning of last year.
Mhm.
Is it people speaking German, or is it people in that time zone?
It's people speaking German, and it's not only Germans. It's also Austrians, and I think we at some point we had someone from Switzerland, but usually it's Germans.
Cool.
Or most of them. But yeah, it's our intention is to make it like German language, but not, of course, not restricted to German nationality.
German only topics.
Right. That as well.
Bratwurst versus.
What kind of beer you like?
We've never done an interview on beer brands. We should do that, I think.
We're revealing our stereotypes about Germany.
Yeah, that's it's all accurate. There's nothing.
It's all accurate.
Yeah, it's all accurate. I'll only wear lederhosen and drink beer.
Yeah. I heard stereotypes save time, so
they do. Yeah.
Okay. And if there's one thing a German likes to do, it's save time.
Yeah, very efficient.
So how about your meetup in person? You say it's just been going on since December, but like, how are people finding out about it and stuff?
So we're on meetup.com, and we have a Facebook page as well. That I think there's only like 14 people on the Facebook page right now, but we're getting more and more on Meetup every week, and new people coming every time. And a lot of them don't really know anything about street epistemology. And so we have beginners each week. Is that true with the German group as well? Or is it a regular?
Not every week. There will be some weeks, or sometimes we won't have new people joining us for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, but usually some people don't have time anymore, so they stop coming on a regular basis. Some people only have time every other week or so, but yeah, we usually have maybe every second or third meeting we have at least one new person showing up. Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, so I'm trying to balance, like, maybe you can give me some advice on this. Like, how do you balance the new people coming in who know nothing and the people who are ready to go and they want to start practicing? But you have to do some kind of introduction, educational type thing, so they know what's going on, the new people.
Right. Well, what we do is we have I think it's similar to the English language practice group. People mute their mics and turn off their cameras when you have a practice interview. So we do that as well. And then we tell when people are new, we encourage them to ask questions if they don't understand something. But other than that, we also ask them if they just want to, if they want to try it, if they want to be interviewed, or if they want to do an interview. We offer them that we can do like a guided interview, like we can
with help.
Yeah, like we offer them, if you want to try doing an interview yourself, you can just jump in and try it, or we can talk about the question that you could ask. You ask the question, conversation continues, and then again we say, okay, what's a good question to ask now? Now we've established rapport. Now what's the next step? And we talk about that. And we haven't had many people take us up on that offer to do the guided thing. Most people were like, just want to listen for now. For now, or just dive in. Like those two were usually what people wanted to do. But people are oftentimes, they will just join and listen for 1 or 2 sessions, and then maybe ask some questions in between when we give feedback. But we don't do like extensive introductory sessions where we explain the basics of SE. We offer that to do that, of course, if they have questions in between, but we don't do like, okay, we're going to take this half hour to just talk about the basics.
Yeah. Okay. I did a workshop once with Michael Mead, who's another SEer. And what we wound up doing was we did a really quick, like, pretend talk between us two, just to sort of show people what it was about. And then we asked people to volunteer to be each part.
Okay.
And we had up a list of sort of like example questions that you might ask. And then they would basically just sort of ask a question and try to have a conversation. And if they got stuck, they could be like, I'm not really sure what to say next.
Okay.
And then we would try to help them. And it really worked quite well.
Okay. Awesome. We've been doing similar things, so that's good to hear. Because I really wasn't sure of format and how this is supposed to work. Nobody really knows.
What are you
figuring it out as we go?
What's that, Janosch?
What were your experiences, Lisa? How do you go about with new people joining? And
I came up with a schedule that I try to follow every time, and so far it's worked okay. So we do introductions of everybody who shows up, so everybody is, so you're building rapport and doing that right off the bat, and so everybody feels included and welcome.
We do that too, by the way.
Everybody's nervous and stuff as they walk in. They don't know what to expect, so we spend the first 15 minutes probably just getting to know each other as everybody's coming in late and whatever. And then we spend
how many people usually come?
We've had about 4 was our smallest group, and then I think 12 was our largest group.
Oh yeah, that's great
so far.
For in person.
So, it's been cool. So then we spend 15 minutes talking about a different topic. Like today we talked about using thought experiments. So we talked about like doing the tic-tac thing and the box of truth and just different ideas and just talking about truth in general, which was cool. And like last week we talked about shooting the messenger. And so just like we'd spend a few minutes discussing something relevant to doing SE. And then we do practice conversations. So usually pick one conversation partner and one question asker and just usually have somebody who's done it before go first and then let the new people give it a try if they're interested, or just keep watching, like whatever. So, and we use the claims, or they can come up with their own claim. So
cool.
That's really cool. It sounds like a college class with recitation sections and everything, where you have like, this week we're talking about this main thing, and then we're going to break out and do individual practice work.
Yeah, I find it works really well if I like stick to the schedule so people know what to expect. And then when the time's up, I'm like, okay, whoever needs to leave can leave. Whoever wants to stick around and do another 1 or 2, you're welcome to do that. I have another half hour or whatever. So
So I'm just going to
Usually
remind
people
everybody
stay.
in chat to we're taking calls. So if you want to call in and either ask a question or explore a claim, I see some familiar faces in chat, and we're definitely looking to get some people on. In the meantime, we're going to keep talking to each other about our experience doing SE sort of off camera. Lisa has a meetup that she's telling us about. I kind of jumped over top of you, but just making sure we get everybody on board.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, and we're probably just going to keep talking about what we were talking about. But if you want to jump in, and if you have a question or a claim to explore, just join at any time, and we will find a good moment to to put you on the show and go live.
Don't worry that you're gonna like clobber a conversation. You enter a queue, and then we choose when you actually get live. So
exactly.
Join anytime with any claim or any question.
And also, if you're not comfortable with showing your face, you can call in and just use voice chat. That's fine as well.
So yeah, Lisa, you were telling us about how you split up the different sections, how you do each week, and people are coming back. So I guess they like it, huh?
Some people like it. Some people are there to date. That's the other thing I found. They like want to.
Yeah, I guess that's what meetups are all about.
Yeah. So they're like, where are all the chicks? And it's very male dominated.
Yeah.
So but,
I've only been to one meetup before, like a meetup, and it was for technical stuff, and lo and behold, almost every person in the room was male.
Yeah, which I get. I guess dating apps are not always easy, but if they're there to date, they're going to be disappointed. But if they're there to learn something new,
right,
then they usually end up having a good time.
Ideally, maybe for some people it can be both. They learn something new and then already have a shared interest. Who knows? But
right,
yeah. I guess that's why people do it.
Board.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing. I mean, we've talked about this occasionally, and it seems like street epistemology is something that women should, I don't know, gravitate towards. It's about, I mean, again, this is just as bad as stereotyping Germans, but it's about communication, and it's about talking to people, and I don't understand why we don't see more female faces.
Yeah.
Not to put you on the spot either, Lisa.
I know. Well, that's why I want to do this. So people will say, oh, there are women who do this, or at least one. I mean, there's a few here and there, but
there definitely are. Yeah.
They just, we need to see them more.
Yeah.
We're very happy. Sorry.
Yeah. We had one of our conversations that we did today at the group was the claims that we explored was women are more nurturing than men was the claim. And so I had somebody else ask me questions. So I was the interlocutor on that claim. And that was actually really fun.
Interesting.
You were telling us before that you have a list of topics. So do you want to maybe give some examples of some things people might want to call in and discuss?
Yeah, these are things that I have printed out and I put on, like I just put up during the group. And I say, you can pick one of these claims to explore, or you can come up with your own. Or I put them on 3x5 cards as well, and just had people randomly pick them as well. And that, like, people liked doing that too. So I have go ahead.
I've done the same thing. Compile a list of potential claims that people could use to have a conversation, because sometimes even when I do it, like I do it outside with strangers, and people will say, sure, let's do this, but I don't know, I don't have a claim. What do you want to talk about? And I would give them a list, and they would pick one.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard somebody say, I don't believe anything.
Yeah. That's a claim right there.
Yeah, that's true.
But
so
just want to say that there's probably some potential we could give each other our list and see what we like about each other's lists, and then see what pick
What
the best
works.
ones, or Okay.
Yeah, because we were doing like role playing our first couple meetings, and it seemed really ineffective because you don't really care about this, but you kind of know the words you're supposed to say. And so I usually say try to pick something that you have an opinion on, even if it's the opposite, or you're right in the middle and you're trying to decide which way to go on it. So we have astrology works, crystals have healing powers, ghosts and spirits are real, the law of attraction works, gender is a social construct, gender is binary, extraterrestrials have visited Earth, Bigfoot exists, beliefs should not be doubted, women should dress modestly. It's kind of a big one for Utah. Women are more nurturing than men. God is real. Burning sage cleanses living spaces. People have souls. Prayer works. There is an afterlife. We'll be reincarnated after we die. So that's just my basic
Those are great.
list of ideas. We've done a lot of those.
What we did was we put all these claims together, and some of them are also on your list.
Similar. Yeah.
For like astrology, for example. And what we did was we always put not in brackets, basically, or there are, and then bracket exactly 2 or more than 2 genders, for example. Or astrology says something or nothing about the character of a person, so that people will always, it's not
so
a
the
list
opposite is there too.
Right, and it's to make sure that it's balanced, and no one can say it's so like I have all these outlandish claims, and right in the middle is my claim that I believe in. Like there's people, what, a flat Earth and Bigfoot, and below that you say women should dress modestly. Well, that's true, but the other ones, I don't. That's nonsense. People could take that as an offense, so that's why we did it that way.
We were talking about that.
There.
Yeah, about doing it. How do you SE a negative claim like Bigfoot doesn't exist, or we don't have souls?
Yeah. Oh, you can do that. I think it can
You
make
don't think
for
it matters
really interesting.
either way?
Yeah, I believe you can do it either way, and I think that these negative claims can make for very interesting interviews. And I think Anthony has interviewed a girl who said there is no God. I'm an atheist. I believe there is no God, and I think that was interesting.
I have a thing that I've been telling people on Facebook, which is a little more I don't know, generic, but the same kind of idea. Like I want to show that I'm not looking for one or the other. But I say, when I talk to people about a belief that you hold dear or that affects your actions, maybe you believe in one or many gods, or karma, or reincarnation. Maybe you believe Black Lives Matter, or maybe you think blue ones do. Maybe you believe abortion is murder, or maybe you believe in the right to choose. Maybe you think gender is fluid, or that homosexuality is a sin, or that trans women should be excluded from women's spaces. Maybe you believe healthcare is a right, or the only legitimate rights are property rights. So there's another list.
Well, we have a caller.
Excellent.
Parisha, I'll put you on the stream. I'll add you. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah.
I hope it's okay if I'm calling in again.
Absolutely.
Okay. I was willing to defend the claim of reincarnation.
Cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. So I've talked to you before, so I'll let somebody else take the conversation. Which of you would like to do it?
Not me.
Not you?
I'm not ready yet. I'm too nervous.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll do it. Sure.
Okay.
All right. Hide us so that we don't bug you while you talk.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll do that. Let's see. Think. Yeah, that works. All right. We'll time it for maybe. Hold on. What do you usually time it for? I don't remember. Chucky?
I would say we probably should try to keep it to 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
I have-
If no one in chat wants to call in, maybe go for another 5, but I wouldn't go past 20.
Okay. Let me see. I think I can. Yeah, I have a timer here on my computer. All right. Time it for 15. Okay, so I don't think we've met before, right?
I don't think. I think I was on a previous Street Epistemology call-in, but I'm not sure if you were in it. But if you were, I spent most of the time talking to Chucky, I believe.
Yeah, I did. If we've met, I don't remember. So my name is Janosch.
I go by Parisia online.
Parisia. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. So your claim is that, or I'll let you phrase your claim.
So there's a list of claims that are made, and they said reincarnation. So I think my belief qualifies as reincarnation.
Okay.
Basically, I think that after I die, at some point in time, I will have conscious experiences again.
Okay.
So, like, if you go to sleep and you wake up again, you have conscious experiences after that. If you go and you die, I think people normally assume you don't have conscious experiences afterwards, or they believe that some people believe in heaven. You wake up and you're in heaven, or they believe you're reincarnated and you'll exist again. I don't necessarily think we'll exist as humans, but I think that I'll exist as some conscious being at some later point in time.
I see. So, as a conscious being, not necessarily a human, but when you say we have conscious experiences again, does that mean in this world, or could it be like another dimension or a different way of existence than this one, or is it this world? What do you believe in?
It could be either. Yeah,
Could be
it
either.
could be another world, another dimension.
Okay. I see. All right. What is your confidence that this belief is true? And you probably know about the scales, the different scale belief. So you just pick one that you're most comfortable with.
Maybe 75%.
75%. Okay. What's your main reason why you believe that we will have conscious experiences again?
So I was persuaded of this by an article by a philosopher named Michael Huemer called "Existence is Evidence of Immortality." And the short of it is basically, I think time is infinite. And I think that it's possible that I exist once, or it's possible that I exist over and over and over again. And the fact that I exist now is much more likely in a world where I exist over and over and over again than it is in a world where I have a one-off existence.
I see. So it's if I understand you correctly, it's a question of probability in a world in a universe with infinite time.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. When you say that you will have conscious experiences again, will you have memory of this when you do?
No, I won't.
You won't have memory of that. Okay. How is that person you? In what sense?
So it would be me. So I mean, I guess this is a tangential thing with like philosophy, like personhood, but it would be me in the same way that when I go to sleep, I wake up, it's still me. Yeah.
Okay.
So like I'm the one having the experiences, And at some point in time later, I will be the one having the experiences. Even if I don't remember the early experiences, I still conceive of it as being me, if that makes sense.
Okay, I see. Well, when you go to sleep and then you wake up in the morning, you have a memory of going to bed, right? So
Yeah.
there's some sense of continuity. How does that work with you being the same person, but having no memory of yourself, of your past existence?
So I think I could like analogize, like if I was put in a coma and I literally forgot nothing, and then I woke up from the coma and I could be having new experience. I still think it's me in some sense. Like my personal identity is not totally contingent on having memories of my past self.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I guess you could kind of reductio ad absurdum that and say, like, if you forgot this memory of this thing you did, does it cease becoming something you did? Is that someone else?
I see.
I don't think so. I
Uh-huh.
don't know.
Could you be wrong about this belief?
Yeah, I could be wrong.
How would you be able to find out about that?
It would have to be some sort of argument rather than a piece of evidence. I mean, if I did get reborn and I remembered, then that would be some evidence in favor.
Mhm.
But now it would be a difficult belief to kind of look at empirically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if I understand you correctly, if there was anything that could sway you in your belief and decrease your confidence in the truth of this belief, it would be a philosophical argument, basically. Not okay, not an experience, not evidence. Okay.
Well, there is, so my belief is based partially on evidence, and the evidence is that I exist at this moment, right? So there's some Christians that try to make an argument that it's kind of weird that the universe is fine-tuned precisely to allow my existence. But the fallacy there, or the error in reasoning, is you would not exist in a universe which does not have the correct parameters to allow existence. You know? So it's not really evidence that God exists so much as it's evidence that, an observer would be in a universe that would have these characteristics. And so for similar reasons, I think the fact that I'm observing things is better evidence that I exist again and again than I just have one existence. Yeah.
Not sure I understand that. Let me try and rephrase that, or repeat that back to you in my words. You're saying that your existence is evidence supporting the belief that you will have conscious experiences again in the future.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. If you only lived once, this one time, and you never had conscious experiences in the past, and you never will have conscious experiences in the future again, if that was the case, what would the evidence look like then?
It would also be one existence. Yeah.
So how?
Yeah, go ahead.
How does the evidence support your belief?
So you kind of have to use like a Bayesian argument where you flip it. So let's say I have a blue marble, right? Or I say I just drew a blue marble. So I have a blue marble in my hand. And I have two buckets. One bucket has 100 million blue marbles, right? Here's another bucket. It has 100 million red marbles, but one blue marble. right? And I tell you, I have a blue marble. Which bucket did it most likely come from?
I see. So if I understand you correctly, that is an example of basically you only have the experience of existing at this point in time, having this
Yeah.
conscious experience.
Yeah.
And what is the more likely explanation that you drew from a universe that only has you in it once, or you drew that from a universe that has you in it multiple or many or maybe infinite times?
Yeah,
Is that what
exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Because
What?
you could say, well, oh, you have a blue marble. You could have drawn it from the one that has 100 million red marbles and one blue marble. You could have. It's
Right.
possible. Yeah.
What would drawing a red marble feel like to you?
The problem is it wouldn't feel like anything. You wouldn't exist.
Okay, so how can we could one see that? Can one make the same argument as with what you said about the fine-tuned universe? You are in a conscious state, and you are experiencing the world and asking yourself the question, what's more likely? And it has to be from a position of being in a conscious state, and therefore you, like, what does that tell you about the number of marbles, basically?
So it's
Or the number of blue marbles.
It tells you, like, basically, so, like, I think the Christian thinking is there's one universe. What are the chances that every parameter would be so finely tuned that we would exist in this world? And not only would we exist, we would be on this rock that's in this certain place, this distance from the sun, that allows perfect life. That's amazing. It must be that a God made it so this one universe is perfect for us to exist. Whereas you could say, seems more plausible that maybe there's multiple universes, or there's multiple areas of universes, or there's multiple times throughout history.
I think I understand that part of the argument.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, did I not answer your question?
Well, I'm wondering how one, if you could apply the same logic to your existence, like, because you said if there was no if you only had one conscious experience, your conclusion that there have to be many conscious experiences of you would have to come from a place of you existing, but it could, like, how can you tell the difference between you saying that from a position of many conscious experiences or just this one? How does the evidence look different?
The evidence is the same either way. You have to pick the hypothesis, and you can pick which hypothesis is more likely provided the evidence. And the hypothesis which is more likely provide the evidence is multiple existences.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like which. So, like, you can say, like, does this evidence support this hypothesis or this hypothesis? And the evidence better supports a repeated existence hypothesis.
Okay. I'm still not entirely sure I understand the reasoning behind why the evidence supports that more, but maybe we can continue this at another time. I'm looking at the clock here. It's been interesting to. I think I understood your reasons a lot better, or now understand them a lot better. Last question. Do you think that the 70% is the most accurate position that describes your confidence?
Yeah, I think I still have the similar confidence. Yeah.
All right. All right.
Do you, as your probability of that being true increased at all?
My own opinion on whether or
Sure,
not that's
yeah.
true. To be honest, I haven't really thought about what I think about the likelihood of that belief being true. So I can't really tell you. I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
Yeah. Like even if in the future, like if the universe just keeps expanding, contracting, moving and stuff like that, it's for infinite amount of time, like your brain will be reconstructed such,
If that's the case, and I don't know about the evidence for that being true, but yeah,
Sure.
thank you very much. I'll
Yeah,
add
thank you.
Chucky and Lisa back to the stream, and maybe we can leave you on for a few more minutes and discuss
Yeah.
the interview.
Sure, boot me whenever. That's fine. Boot me whenever.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. How did you feel about the conversation?
Good. That was good.
Okay, cool.
Oh, you were asking him.
No, I'm asking you.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
asking you.
okay, good. I think it's I think it appears weird because it's a weird type of reasoning. Yeah. If that makes sense. It's unusual. You don't usually think in those terms. Yeah.
It's an interesting argument. I didn't expect that you would go there. I think that's one of the great things about SE is like, Janosch isn't trying to predict what you're going to say. He's just listening to your argument, and it's all about how you came to the conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had heard of that argument before, but it's been a while ago, and I honestly haven't given it much thought. So yeah, I don't know where I stand on
it looks like we have somebody in. Don't add them. Don't add them to their.
Okay.
They're cursing in the private chat.
Okay. Well, I can kick them.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing to do.
Yeah, like I mean, we are very open to taking on callers, but if you're rude or if you curse,
yeah,
that's not a good way to get invited on the show. So
yeah, actually, it's okay. It's okay to say words like shit, but don't say racial slurs. That's not appropriate. So you enjoyed the conversation. Do you feel like you understand your own reasoning better now?
I feel like I'm probably similar.
Okay.
To where I was on that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's fair.
So any feedback on my technique, on how well I did, where I screwed up, what I should have done
I missed
better?
Part in the middle, so my bad.
How about I always don't know how to say your name. Is it Parisia?
Parisia. I just say Parisia. Yeah.
Parisia. Do you have feedback for Janosch? Like, what did you expect him to ask, or what did you want him to ask that he didn't ask?
So he asked the usual questions: the confidence in your claim. How did you come to believe that? That was good. Could you be wrong? That was good. I guess I watch a lot of street epistemology videos, so I don't know. These are things I think about already.
Yeah.
I don't get, could you be wrong? I don't get caught off guard. I don't know.
Yeah. It's great how readily you admitted you could be wrong. I mean, you're only at 75% to begin with, but I heard him say something about what would bring you down, and you said probably not like evidence, but maybe an argument. And so maybe it would have been interesting to explore like what kind of argument, or have you thought of some arguments or something like that?
So like if time is not infinite, then it's not like a infinite bag of marbles that you draw from. it'd be more like finite, and so it would be more probable that you wouldn't be born again. So if time started like 1 billion years ago, then I would think I'd only exist once. So the time one is important. But if the universe keeps expanding and contracting and we just keep going on and on, then I think that there's the room for the repeated existences over and over again.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I heard that too, and then I asked. So it's an argument. It's not based on evidence. And then Parisha, you said, well, there is evidence, and the evidence is my existence. So I decided to explore that instead of the argument part. But yeah, still, it would have been interesting to talk about what kind of argument and go in that direction.
Yeah, these things can always go in so many directions.
Yeah.
I was interested in the idea that there's almost maybe a more basic claim that I think I heard you make, which is that, and let me know if I'm misphrasing this, but that you can be yourself and not have any memories from the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that would be another interesting claim to sort of dive into, because I feel like that props up this belief in reincarnation.
I mean, like, people forget things, right? And they don't become different people by traditional definitions.
I would ask, maybe, are they not different people?
I think it has to do with like the stream of consciousness, or like it has to deal with what is receiving the consciousness. I don't think forgetting makes you different.
Yeah, this would be like a whole conversation, I think, but it would be fascinating.
Yeah, maybe we can, maybe you and I or someone else and you can continue this at another time.
Sure. Yeah.
So to step back just a little bit, we've had a couple people in chat who are threatening to call in, but I'm not sure we've actually got anybody calling in. Is that right?
We have Daniel Ray in.
Okay, excellent.
In line waiting.
All right, so thank you so much for calling, Parisha. It's been fun, and I hope to talk to you again.
Nice chatting. Have a great day, guys.
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, guys.
Can you hear us?
I can, for the moment.
Excellent.
I live in a metal barn in rural Texas, so my connection is going to be spotty.
Okay, no worries.
If I expire, I will try to reconnect.
We won't hold it against you if you get disconnected.
Yeah, it's not that I ran away scared. It might be. There's a slight chance.
Give it time.
Janosch, is there any chance we could turn him up just a bit?
I'll see if I can do that.
It's just
That's
a little
as loud
quiet.
as I can make it.
Oh, yeah.
I can yell.
Hold on.
So Daniel, we were talking a bit in the chat, and I invited you to come on to talk because I know that you're sort of a critic of street epistemology.
Yeah.
And I think it would be super fun to, I'm happy to let you say your piece about that, but it would be great if you'd also explore belief with us.
Sure. I'm not. I'm as much content as I make. I probably watch and digest more than I produce. I'm constantly trying to learn, but I have asked people to do this with me and haven't got a lot of takers. I've had some private conversations with people. I try that route because I feel those can be a lot more productive because you're not doing it for an audience, and I want people to know that my criticisms are sincere and genuine, and I'm a human being who puts on his pants like everybody else. So I've tried to have a few, and I've had a few good private conversations with people who practice SE, and I enjoy watching the shows and seeing how you guys talk about things, of course. But I'm not here to give airtime to my criticisms. I would, if you want to run me through the gauntlet, that would be perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd personally be happy to have a conversation with you about a claim, and we were talking about this in chat. I don't want to give you a claim, because the idea is to work collaboratively to help you explore something you're interested in exploring.
Actually, I have an idea. Maybe if Daniel, if you're interested in trying to do an SE conversation yourself or an interview yourself, you could explore one of our claims.
I have a video where I SE'd myself. I don't know if you guys have seen that. But no, I think I think it would be fair, because I don't want to. You guys do it to me. I think that's what people think. I've had some people say that I'm not willing to go through it or have my beliefs explored. So I think that would be fair, because people might think that I've turned this into an opportunity to criticize you, and that's not what I'm. That's not why I joined the stream. I thought it was interesting that you guys would ask me questions about what I believe. And I think that would be fine to go through. I've been asking people to do that, and I would be happy to do that if you want to.
All right, excellent. So Lisa had read at the top of the show a list of maybe ideas. Does something strike your fancy? I know that you have a personal interest in Christianity, but I'm happy to talk with you about social issues or politics or anything you want to talk about.
Oh, no. Lisa's is a good list. It's a list I've seen similarly. I don't know what you guys know about me, so I work for an organization here in Texas that we are constantly, we do research into other worldviews. That's my job. I'm paid to constantly examine my biases about my own faith systems. But
sounds like a great job.
Our purpose is to equip and inform the church about non-Christian worldviews. And so that's what we do. We talk about Islam, Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses. My boss is a former 4th generation Mormon. He came out of Mormonism in his early 20s. And so there's some commonality between what we do at Watchman and Mormonism and the SE. There's some overlap there. We have a dinner every month for what we call Mormons in transition. People who are leaving the church, who know that Mormonism isn't true, and yet they're not really sure where they're going to go or where they're going to land. And so we have a very open, we make dinner, we have a very open sit down, tell us about your struggles and all this stuff once a month. A meetup group like what Lisa has in Utah. And so there's some commonality there that I have. And so anyway, my love, my life is Christ. I mean, that's why I do these things. And I mean, if you've watched any of my videos, I don't just try to do critiques. I try to offer a Christian point of view. And so the last couple of months, we've been putting together epistemology, philosophy from a Christian perspective, so that it's not just an open criticism of SE, but I'm constructively trying to at least provide alternative epistemological thoughts from a Christian perspective to people that are interested to find out more about that. So we'll by the middle of May, we'll have 5 separate podcasts with resources about epistemology from a Christian perspective. So we can explore something about Christianity if you'd like.
Okay, excellent. That sounds fantastic. I assume, Lisa, that you wait for the next one. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Lisa could do it.
Right.
She's fine. I would be fine. She could do it. I won't be a hard customer. If she wants to practice.
I think Lisa wants
to be very nice.
What's the claim you're going with?
I believe Jesus, it's Easter, so why don't we talk about the resurrection? I believe Jesus rose from the dead.
Go for it, Chucky.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry.
No worries. No worries. No stress whatsoever. All right. So yeah, Janosch is removing. So it's just us. This way you won't be, ganged up on, Daniel.
Oh, that's fine. I if you want to do that, if they want to prepare and jump in, I'm cool with that. Chuck.
Well, no, I mean, in some sense, it's not really what it's about. Like, we don't want to gang up on you. I mean,
no, I know, but I don't want you guys to feel like I'm requesting that you isolate.
Oh,
yourself.
No. We do this with every conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you want to talk about the resurrection? Can you maybe just state what it is that you believe about a resurrection?
Yes, I believe that God came to us embodied in the person of his Son. In Trinitarian theology, Jesus is the second person of the Trinity, and God came to us in the flesh, in human form, as a human being, fully God, fully man, in the person of Christ. He was born, lived, died by crucifixion under Pontius Pilate during the reign of the Roman Emperor Tiberius, and rose again, even to the astonishment of his disciples who did not believe. And I find the testimonies in the Gospels to be historically reliable. And I mean, there's a lot of claims here. So if you want, I know you want to isolate it down to the basics.
Yeah. So
I'm just giving you background. So whatever you want to pursue.
Before we move on, I'm actually hearing a little bit of static from your mic. Is there? It wasn't there before. Is there anything maybe that's?
Let me try this.
How's that? Is that better?
I think that it actually seems to be the same. It's definitely a different mic, but I'm still hearing the static.
Okay, that's just my rubber band and coat.
Oh, that sounds much better. That sounds much better.
Okay, it's gonna.
Yeah, this is
Chuck. It's gonna go back and forth, so I apologize ahead of time.
No, this is like music to my ears. This sounds fantastic.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I heard you say that you believe in the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and then a lot of specific details. Like you have a very fleshed out belief, no pun intended, about the resurrection. Can we maybe condense this to, let's say, Jesus Christ was resurrected in bodily form?
That sounds just fine.
Okay. Now, I definitely, like, I want to make sure I'm not putting words in your mouth. So I'm not trying to change the topic. I'm just trying to condense it because it was quite a mouthful.
Yeah. Well, I understand. So I understand part of the tactic is to isolate a belief, narrow it down, and that's fine.
Well, and I want to let you know, I hear that. And so we can during this discussion we can talk about maybe your critiques and how you're feeling while you're having the discussion. But I heard you. I mean, I don't know. It might be interesting. But I heard you say that it's a tactic, and I don't want to misconstrue you. It's just that, like, for example, you had. I can't repeat everything because I can't even remember it. But you talked about Pontius Pilate. We could explore a particular claim about Pontius Pilate. But it's just we can't explore more than one claim at a time.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Okay.
And
all right.
In derogatory sense. I mean, we all have tactics.
Excellent. Okay.
Greg Kuchel. I'm interviewing Greg Kuchel in this summer about his book, and we're going to talk about the differences and the similarities between street epistemology and his book.
Right.
So I didn't mean tactic in a derogatory
sense.
Okay.
All right. I just want to make sure we stay friends.
I try to be the friendly critic. It's
yeah. Excellent. Okay. All right. So I'm hearing you say that Jesus Christ was resurrected, brought back to life in bodily form. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. That's
okay.
a good narrow summation of it. Yes.
Excellent. And I know there's lots to it, but I heard you say that. And again, don't let me put words in your mouth, but I think I heard you say that your best piece of evidence is the Gospels. Is that correct?
I would say the best piece of evidence, this may seem a little esoteric, but I think after 30 years in the faith, I think the best piece of evidence is Jesus himself. Then scriptures are, of course, of paramount importance, but were it not for Jesus, we don't have the Gospels at all, right?
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm at with that, because and I can explain that more if you'd like, but that's my position.
I'm really interested, because, like, if I asked you about your belief in something else, and you told me that one of your biggest reasons was a person, I'm definitely interested to know, like, what about that person is making you more confident?
Well, so this goes a little bit into where I work at Watchman. So I've been at Watchman for 2 years, and I'm certainly no expert in world religions, but I've had a lot more exposure to it, obviously, in studying the various worldviews and doctrines that we deal with at the ministry. But we don't just deal with Mormonism and Islam and Jehovah's Witnesses and, the big ones that you think of. We deal with all kinds of cults, New Age. We go into all kinds of aberrant Christian offshoots and non-Christian movements, and we talk about atheism, scientism, and Gnosticism. We run the whole gamut. But what's interesting, Chuck, to me, Chucky, I don't know what to call you. I don't mean to be disrespectful.
Chucky's fine. Yeah.
Chucky's fine. All right. That Jesus figures centrally or even peripherally in most every one of these movements in some way, even from the Scientologists to the Mormons to the atheists and agnostics and Muslims, that Jesus is coming up all the time. And I'm not saying that proves that he is true. We just had Robert Price on our Atheist and Christian Book Club, who is probably the leading mythicist that's out there. There's not too many mythicists as a scholar. But we had Price on for 2 hours, and he gave us no arguments really for the non-existence of Jesus. I mean, historically, even the agnostic and atheist scholars will acknowledge that Jesus existed historically. So I think there's solid justification for believing in that Jesus was a person. And then what's the best resource that tells us about the person of Jesus? And that would be the Bible. That's how I would view that. So those are my.
So to try to restate it, basically, ultimately, the reason is Jesus, and we know what he said and what he taught through the Gospels. Is that accurate?
That's yeah, I would say that's fair. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Okay. So about the claim Jesus was resurrected, how confident are you? So you've heard this 100 times, but on a scale from 0 to 100, where 100 is like you can't possibly be wrong, how confident are you that he was resurrected bodily?
Are you familiar with my view on the confidence scale?
I'm not. I apologize.
Okay.
I've only seen a couple of your videos.
I don't know how many people are familiar with where I'm at on that. My thing to say, and it's not being dodgy, I don't put a number on it, Chucky. I just say I'm very confident. And so
okay, excellent. Yeah.
And the only reason is, and here's the analogy of why I actually changed my mind on this, because I have some of my acquaintances and people that I work with through Watchmen are professional philosophers. And so literally one of my friends who is a professional philosopher, Tim McGrew, through listening to some of his reasoning through Bayesian things and probabilities and whatnot, I found myself finding it difficult to explain what I meant by, say, 79 or
absolutely
62. Like how do you strain out
the idea is just to get sort of a kind of a baseline, like where you're at, because some people say that they believe something, and then you ask them where you're at, and they're like, oh, just barely above 50-50,
Yeah, and I understand the colloquial use of the numerical value, but I'm so precise. I try to be anyway in my thinking.
Yeah. I know it's frustrating to be asked a specific number, but I hear you saying that you're very high confident.
Confident. Yeah, I'm confident. I mean, I'm confident. I can adjust confident, not so confident, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but you're quite confident.
Quite confident. Well, we can go with that.
All right, excellent. Okay, and what's getting you up that confidence scale is what you've found in the Gospels. Is that accurate? I don't want to tell a wrong story here.
No, I know in general the practice is to kind of find my tree trunk, my main reason, and it's honestly difficult for me to give you, besides telling you that it's the person of Jesus, how I would experience that personally has, and I admit, some epistemic limitations to it.
Let me tell you, if I may, if you'll permit me, why we're after the trunk. If it's okay.
No,
so sometimes you'll have a conversation with somebody who has a belief, and you'll say, okay, what's one of your reasons? And they give a reason, and you wind up talking for 20 minutes about that particular reason, and then you come to find out that if they didn't have that reason, their confidence wouldn't change. And so it's kind of like, well, we didn't really need to talk about it because that's not really propping up your belief. You see what I mean?
Well, I think that the idea that, so you're talking, so on an epistemic level, I have said in some videos and other conversations that at some point you hit an epistemic limitation in trying to describe how you know or why you know what you believe in God. So I might say I came to Jesus when I was 25 or 26, but to give you the brass tacks of what I would call the epistemic mechanism by which I was once an unbeliever and then I was a believer, was a process kind of like, if you've ever stargazed, Chucky, you know, if you sat out at twilight, you watch one star come in, and then another star comes in, and then another star comes in, but you can't really pinpoint a moment when all the stars have appeared and you're staring at a beautiful black star-filled night sky. And so that's how Christianity came to me, just a point of light here, and oh, look, over there, a point of light, and they gradually emerged in this canopy that I call my belief. And so it's kind of like asking me, I'm giving you my perspective, what's the main star that caused you to realize the sky was filled with stars? It's hard epistemically for me to articulate, or like trying to chase a thread. They're kind of intertwined, and so I
totally see where you're coming from, and to even ask like, what's your main star is a bit of a weird question.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm not saying that as a criticism, but just as an epistemic difficulty of being someone. So like, I would look at it this way, you know, we see in the act of seeing a star, we use our eyes, we see the star through our eyes, but in the act of seeing, Chucky, we don't see our own eyes. And so I couldn't describe what the inside of my eyes look like by using my eyes.
Sure. I think the goal of this question is to find out, for example, given that scenario, is maybe the statement, I can see the stars with my eyes. And so the idea is to find something that it's actually evidence, in the sense that if you didn't have it, your confidence would be lower.
Well, I think we could go back to the person of Jesus himself. I think that's, if I'm going to be as epistemically specific as possible, it would be the person of Jesus himself. And I think that would be my main reason for my content.
So I'm gonna ask you a question that I think I know the answer to, but I don't want to presume. How do you know the message, or how did Jesus convey information to you? Maybe that's what I mean to say.
Well, so it would be like me describing the stellar, the mechanics of astronomy. Like when a star appears in the sky, what's actually going on? How many photons are hitting my eye? How far away is this? What's the stellar spectroscopy of all of this stuff? And so when you're talking about God revealing himself to a person, I don't know how familiar you are with scripture, but I think the best analogy that I can come up with that I find to be is two places in the Bible. One is in John 3, where a Pharisee named Nicodemus comes to Jesus and is asking about new birth. And Nicodemus has no clue what Jesus is talking about. Jesus says, you must be born again. And Nicodemus is like, I have to enter into my mother's womb a second time. And Jesus says, you're a teacher of Israel and you don't understand these things. And then Jesus describes to him new birth like seeing the effects of the wind, but not knowing from where it's coming or to where it's going. That's one example that I think resonates with my experience.
Okay,
and the
so
second,
if I can, before you give me the second, let me make sure I understand the first. What I think I'm hearing you say is you've learned things through Jesus by the effects that he has enacted in the world. Is that correct?
In the world, in myself, and other people, yes. Mm-hmm.
So again, I know you have a second reason, but before we go on, the idea is to try to figure out, right, like what those things are. We've identified one, which is that the Gospels record things. Are there other ways in which Jesus has revealed information to you?
Through creation.
Okay, so looking around at what exists.
Right. So I'm a lay astronomer. I've helped co-author a book on the cosmos. It's my favorite thing to study. And so, in Christian theology and tradition, there are generally this metaphor of two books. So God reveals himself to us through what he has made and through what is written. Jesus, when he would quote the Old Testament, there was no New Testament in Jesus' day, he was living it out. He would quote the New Testament and say, as it is written, or it is written. And he would quote from the prophets or something. And so there's two revelations. There's the revelation of God through nature and the intelligibility of nature and all of that. And then there's the revelation of God through scripture. And that's traditionally how I've understood it.
Okay.
Oh.
So that's fantastic. I understand where you're coming from with those reasons. But let's go back to what we were talking about earlier in trying to explain why I'm asking you this question to begin with. So I'm gonna ask you a hypothetical. So you know things about astronomy that cause you to conclude things about Jesus's life and about the universe and all of this stuff. In particular, I'm hearing you say, and I really don't want to put words in your mouth, so let me know if I'm saying the wrong thing, but I think if I'm following the thread, there are things that you've learned about astronomy that have caused you to conclude that Jesus Christ was resurrected bodily.
It's part of it, certainly.
Okay. So this is great.
Well,
just give me just 1 second. And I apologize, really, but I just want to make sure we're on the same page, because the reason why I'm asking you this question is to see, is it really a pillar that's holding up your belief? So, for example, if when you studied astronomy, you found out that actually there were no stars, or the way the universe was designed was completely random, and there was no, interesting structure. Would your confidence that Jesus Christ was resurrected be lowered?
Well, here's my issue, and I've had this, and this is going to be my answer, and
Okay, no worries, no stress.
One of my longstanding embedded critiques with street epistemology, but it's my answer.
Okay.
People have accused me of avoiding or not liking hypothetical scenarios. And my criticism has been, when it comes to the traditional evidence for Christianity, it seems like, in general, the way a street epistemology conversation unfolds doesn't deal with the evidence presented, but more in line of hypothetical scenarios that lead an interlocutor to give an answer that may or may not be true.
Yeah, I totally hear you. I'm definitely not trying to say that the universe is not structured or anything like that. I'm trying to figure out, is your knowledge about astronomy really getting you to the belief that Jesus Christ was resurrected?
Absolutely.
Because if you tell me that were the structure of the universe different, I would be less confident that Jesus Christ was resurrected. Then I would say, oh, okay, this is a really important reason. But if, on the other hand, you were to tell me that it wouldn't affect your belief at all, I would say, well, let's not talk about that reason, because it doesn't seem to be a big part of your pie chart.
Well, the problem I'm having is with the problem I generally tend to have is with the hypothetical scenario, where, like, you could ask me, if your house was burning down, what would you do? I could tell you what I think I would do, but when there's a fire in my house, I don't know what I would actually do.
Yeah.
And that's where, let
me ask you,
if I had to tell you, like the Apostle Peter, this is an example that I think it might answer your question. Peter, at one point during Jesus's earthly ministry before he died, had said to Jesus, "I will never deny you. I will always be with you." And then later, that's a hypothetical. I'll never deny you. I know that I will never deny you. And then later, Peter denies him 3 times and weeps bitterly. So I honestly don't know, in these hypothetical situations, what would be the case. And to me, they don't really deal with the evidence. They deal with potential psychological states of a person in the future.
I'm not even to the part of the conversation where I'm trying to figure out, are your reasons good? I'm way earlier, and I'm trying to figure out, are these your reasons?
Yeah,
like
they're the reasons.
So if I definitely hear that you're saying they're your reasons, but let's pick the easier of the two, and I think this will be more clear. For example, if we lived in a world where there was no gospel, if it was the same world, but there was no written evidence of Jesus Christ having even existed, right? Would your confidence be as strong as it is?
Well, if Jesus didn't exist, I probably would not be a Christian. So
no. So in this hypothetical, he did exist. He does exist. He did exist, but he didn't leave any gospel, any written record, no testimony that was written down. So would your confidence still be quite high?
Well, again, this is my problem with hypotheticals. I don't think that says anything about the belief. Really, what it is more about my psychology. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. But that's what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to figure out, because here's how it works. If you tell me, yes, my confidence would be lower, I'd say, okay, fantastic. The gospel's a really important part of this. But on the other hand, you could also say, no, I think I would still be just as confident. And that's an honest answer, right? There's no right or wrong answer. But if you said, no, I wouldn't change my confidence levels, I'd say, okay, great. I'm not really interested in talking about the Gospels, because even if the Gospels didn't exist, you would still be just as confident as you are. So there must be something else that's getting you that confidence. Does that make sense?
It does. And this is where I get, as a SE critic, this is where I get frustrated, because my confidence has nothing to do with whether or not what I believe is true. It's more of a psychological evaluation of my confidence than it is this really true? And this is where I get frustrated, because it's like, well, I'm giving you these reasons and I'm confident, and it seems like this is an effort in trying to get me to find something to reduce my confidence, whereas I'm telling you I don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. The hypotheticals are, I understand their value if you're trying to, quote unquote, get in somebody's head. But I don't actually, honestly, truthfully know, because I've said in other videos, it's like, well, what would affect your confidence in your belief? And as a Christian for 30 years, I could tell you that the death of a loved one might affect my confidence, a loss, a tragedy, some kind of sorrow or suffering. I mean, it was Peter denied Jesus 3 times over something rather trivial.
I hate to interrupt. We're going to have to start wrapping up, so I'm just letting you know.
Not a problem. That's fine. I know we didn't get past stage 2, but I appreciate the opportunity.
Let me maybe reveal something, right? Because this is meant to be an honest exchange. Like, let's say we were exploring my belief that that my wife loves me. And I said, well, the reason I know my wife loves me is because every morning when we wake up, she tells me that she loves me. And right, let's imagine the roles were reversed, and you heard me say that, and you said, well, Chucky, in a world where she didn't say every morning, I love you, would your confidence that she loves you be less? I would find it easy to say, yes, my confidence would be less, because that is something that's getting me to that high confidence. And that exchange, it communicates the fact that that is an important reason. Does that, I feel like maybe we're sort of talking past each other about this.
Well, I think if I do understand you, I believe I do understand you. But I think if me as your interlocutor tells you he's confident, and that these are reasons that give me the confidence, I don't know I'm not sure. I'm not clear about what the value is of exploring beyond. If you take my word, I'm confident. If you take my word, I'm 100% or whatever.
Yeah.
That I've expressed to you that these are important things.
Right.
And
it's a little
I'm being honest
unfortunate.
when I'm saying, I'm being honest when I'm saying I have here are some things that would reduce my confidence. We don't even have to take away Jesus. We can say, well, tomorrow Dan Murray wakes up and finds out, this and this happened, and suddenly my life is like the book of Job. or something goes wrong, or some trivial thing happens to me, I might reduce my confidence. In other words, Chucky, there are a million things that might reduce my confidence because I'm a frail human being. So
absolutely. And I think if we were to continue the conversation, I think that would be the way to go. And I didn't mean to ask you this in order to try to trick you or put you on the spot. I guess so we've brought everybody else back in. So I'll just sort of reflect. And I know you have done so, but if you watch street epistemology videos, what you'll often find is that people will give, let's say, 3 reasons that support their belief. And somebody will ask them, okay, if you didn't have that reason, would you be any less confident? And they'll say, no, I would be the same amount of confidence. This actually happens a surprising amount. Like, it actually happens a lot, that people think that they have reasons that are getting them to a confidence, but those reasons aren't actually part of the equation. And I was hoping to try that with you, but it seems that maybe it made you a bit, I don't know, maybe it just came across wrong, and it wasn't my intention. And so I apologize.
No, I sought no ill will. I understand, I'm in the weird disposition of completely understanding, or at least having an opinion about why there's more of an emphasis on confidence in street epistemology than there is the actual belief. And it could be my biases that are, coming out. So, it's a weird, it's an unusual exchange, Chucky. I concede, but I sense no ill will on your part. But I just think that
excellent. Yeah.
The confidence question, for me, is always independent of what I'm actually saying I think is true. But I felt like,
let me tie a bow in this. I really would love to continue this conversation. I'm not saying this just to be nice. So if you'd like, you can contact me offline and we can do a video together, or we don't have to record it, but we can continue this conversation where we try to avoid this idea of confidence entirely. If you'd be inclined, it's okay if you don't, but
yeah, I think there's 2 levels there, and I would be sure you have my email. My email's on my YouTube page, so you can get a hold of me that way. But I think, it's the difference is you want to explore my confidence. I want to explore the truth of the belief. And I think that's where maybe the
right. And I want to meet you in the middle, so that, it's just a shame it took us this long to figure out that we have this bit of a disconnect here.
Well, we're in a time frame.
I'm going to shut up and let Lisa and Janosch try to maybe put some commentary in here.
And I'll bail out. I'm sorry for monopolizing all the time.
Actually, Daniel, before you go, I have one question for you. One last question. You say that you've watched a lot of SE conversations, a lot of videos, right? Have you found any? Have you watched any example of an SE interview that was not about religious beliefs? Where you thought that that SE was useful in exploring the interlocutor's reasons for believing it and help them reflect on the quality of these reasons?
Yeah, I think I've conceded in some videos where I think the civility, the idea of providing a moment for people to reflect is cool. I mean, that's Socratic, right? That's very ancient practice. We can have civil conversations and ask good questions of each other, as we've been doing for centuries. Where it gets a little hairy is in motivations of some practitioners, in terms of how questions might be. But yeah, I will concede what I feel is beneficial to having a street epistemology conversation. But I also am have my strong opinions about what I think motivations tend to be sometimes.
Okay.
So
has that ever been?
Sorry, Lisa, I think you're muted.
Yeah, you're muted.
Can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
About that topic. You mentioned possibly you use the phrase "getting in somebody's head." Is that as a motivation of doing SE? Is that one of your main complaints? Does it feel like people who are practicing SE are trying to get in your head?
Yeah, I mean, that's
To manipulate?
colloquial. I didn't. Yeah, yeah, it does. Sometimes it feels like a you were talking about confidence, and that has deep roots in who we are as people, and that there's psychology involved in that. So yeah, it does feel like getting inside the head and examining what's going on inside of a person's brain, not just cognitively, but on an emotional, in different levels there. And so it does at times feel like a psychological evaluation.
For what it's
Is
worth,
that always
I
a bad thing?
Well, no, if it's done with proper motivations and intent, I think, but it's difficult. It's certainly a difficult aspect of street epistemology, in my opinion. Yes.
Okay, I was just curious.
I definitely want to apologize if you feel like I've done something untoward.
No, I don't know of anything, Chucky. I mean,
Okay, all right. I think we've actually sort of had a meeting of the minds, and my understanding is that you'd be more interested in talking about maybe the quality of the evidence itself, and less about me trying to help you find out, are these your good reasons?
Yeah, if like a interlocutor tells you they're confident, I think.
Yeah, and again, the only reason we do it is because so many people, and this might sound conceited, and perhaps it is, but so many people are actually mistaken about what their reasons are. People will often say, for example, let's pick Christianity. They'll say, for example, well, the prophecies are one of my good reasons. And then you'll say, well, what if those prophecies didn't exist? They'll say, well, it wouldn't affect my confidence. What does that tell you? What does that tell me? It tells me that we don't need to talk about the quality of that piece of evidence because it doesn't affect the confidence level.
And I feel like that insight can be really useful and very surprising to people. They can realize,
it often is surprising.
I always thought that was the main reason why I believe it's true, and I just learned it really isn't. I think that's great.
I think maybe I apologize because I'm sure from your position it seems like I'm underestimating you. I know this is your life, and here I am asking you, you sure your reasons, and you're like, yeah, they're my reasons.
No, I talk to atheists. We engage every month, and we have good friends that are atheists all the time, and we interact with the top minds and authors in atheism, and I've heard everything. So and so it's not a big deal at all. But I didn't want to monopolize the time in taking your chat.
Well, thanks so much for calling in, Daniel. I
thanks
really
for having me, guys.
it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Take care.
All right. Any
we have
feedback or
right. Let me just say that we have 2 people waiting in line.
Excellent. Okay.
But I don't know if they want to chime in on the feedback, or if we want to do. I mean, I feel like we should do a little feedback on that conversation just now.
Step back. I'll just be quiet for a second and let you reflect.
Well, I'll ask. I can see the people who have called in. Their little preview pictures. So if you called in because if you're interested in talking about this conversation we just had and give some feedback, maybe raise your hand and I can add you. Diamond Discourse raise his hand. So but it's okay if I just add him to the stream. We'll discuss it together.
Hey everybody.
Hi, Diamond.
Hey, good to see y'all.
Good to see you.
I totally enjoyed the conversation you had with Daniel, and just wanted to chime in with the feedback. The couple things I just want to get off right to start is it's really challenging sometimes when someone knows SE so well, and then you're trying to do just basic SE, and people tend to anticipate what you're going to say and maybe even read more into it, or they're like, 3 steps down the road, and you're like, wait, let's clarify this one step, and so I totally heard that in the conversation, but you did a really good job, I felt, Chucky, in clarifying the purpose, even though I really think Daniel does know a lot of the purpose of those questions, but it's still good to articulate, and I think that was productive, and And by the way, Daniel, if you're still listening, I certainly appreciate your criticisms, and I think you do have an impact and improve SE through your contribution. So I'm happy to have you on anyway.
Yeah, I feel like I actually learned something from that conversation. I think it hadn't struck me before that question is a little bit pokey, right? It's a little bit like, you just told me this is one of your reasons. Are you sure it's one of your reasons? Right. I think that can come across as being a little like a dick question.
Yeah.
And I think I'd like to find a different way to do that. Or, maybe the right thing to do, even if it's not the efficient thing to do, maybe the right thing to do is just assume that is a reason and go through and explore that chain of reasoning. And then it's just, I've seen so many times when people are mistaken about.
Well, I feel most people, you don't ask, are you sure that that's your reason? That's not what you do. You say, if you didn't have that reason, would you still believe it? Would your confidence change? And I feel I've never, at least in my experience, no one has ever taken that as, well, are you sure that that's your reason, and taken offense?
Well, I guess we have an example now, right?
Yes, yes. But what I'm saying is, I think the reason is that Daniel is very familiar with SE and knows what the purpose of the question is.
Yeah.
I liked how you went really early on and turned it back on him and said, why am I asking you about the trunk of the tree versus the branches, or whatever, however you worded it?
Yeah. I could tell
on the same page.
I don't want to pretend to be a psychologist or anything, but I could tell he's thinking about the method, and he's thinking about what's wrong with street epistemology, and that he doesn't like this thing about the methods. Because I think if I could charitably steelman where Daniel's coming from, I think he sees street epistemology as a way to poke holes in people's ideas. And by isolating reasons, for example, the same way I might isolate stars in the sky, it makes each reason feel more weak. And then if I can poke a hole in one star, I'm sitting there going, aha, your belief system is terrible. You've lost one of your stars,
I wonder in that example if maybe you could take another claim that you both would agree has loads and loads of evidence for.
Yeah, that's why I tried to talk about my wife loves me. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. You did that. So right on.
Thanks, Tom.
Also, when you said one example that I still remember was when he said, and the second reason, and you slowed him down and said, okay, yeah, I understand you have a second reason. Let me stop you right there. That is something that I feel at first, when you learn SE, you learn to hold back. You learn to let the interlocutor talk. You learn to listen. You learn to not interrupt them and say, but what about this? And at first, that's the challenge. And then you get to a stage where you do that. And sometimes you have an interlocutor who likes to really explain in detail all their different reasons, and can get not get preachy, but quote unquote. And I feel like in some cases where they're skipping things that you want to explore, and that's important, and they're kind of skipping over that. Yeah. And you need to learn not to damage rapport, and also that it's necessary sometimes to risk maybe potentially damaging rapport if you still want to have the SE interview and not listen to them talking for 15-20 minutes. So I think you did that really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you let them talk? And when do you bring it back to the claim? Where is there a line? Is there any rule or anything to?
I think
because some people will just go and go and go and go.
To give Daniel credit, right? Part of the quote problem is that he lives and breathes this idea, and he has thought about it for so long. He's 100 steps ahead of me, and he knows everything there is to know about all of this stuff having to do with biblical, reasoning. And I think it is worth it to say, okay, slow down. You're going too fast for me. That's what I meant to convey. I'm not sure if I did a great job, but it's like I can only think about one reason at a time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was great. Let me just mention that we now have 3 more people waiting in line. Keep that in mind.
Let's put 2 more people on at the same time. And Diamond, you stay here for a minute.
We can do that. Sure.
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah. I have to run anyway, so I'm going to drop out.
Okay. All right.
But no, well done. Thank you.
Thanks for calling in, Diamond.
Thank you. Bye. All right. So am I just going to add all 3 of them at the same time?
Yeah. Let's have an open discussion. If they both have feedback.
Let's try that. Oh, one just left.
Okay. All right. Hi. Welcome.
Well, hello.
Hi. Well, hello.
Can you introduce yourselves or, give your screen name or handle?
Go ahead. Oh, okay. Yeah. My name's Steve McRae. I'm the host of the Non Sequitur Show. Longtime friend of Anthony Agnabosco when he first started Street of Paul's me way back in the day, from Peter Boghossian and Conceptual James and all those guys.
Excellent. You say your name's Steve?
Steve McRae, yes.
Okay, excellent. And we lost the other person.
Yes.
All right. Well, Steve,
you're not familiar with my show, I take it. But that's just fine. Nobody is.
I apologize. There's so much YouTube.
No. Yes, I'm well aware of that. No. So I've had some criticisms for street epistemology from when it first came about, and so I don't really want to be SE'd, but I was kind of wondering if any of those things that I had first discussed with Anthony has been implemented over a period of time. Because one of the criticisms I had with street epistemology is that, as somebody who actually has a fondness for epistemology, the approach that I noticed was to try to undermine justificatory conditions for substantiating a belief, right? So a person makes a claim, and then they say, okay, what are the reasons for these beliefs? And you kind of to essentially undermine the reasoning by which they rationalize their particular belief. And sometimes that's perfectly fine. But when I have watched some of the street epistemology videos, sometimes I think they do so a little bit unfairly, because they try to make it all evidential and empirical, and they seem to not allow for any kind of rationalism or pragmatism or prudentialism, which are justificatory conditions for a rational belief. And so, I think the street epistemology has a very good approach, and I think that is great. And I think we all should evaluate our dostastic positions. But I've seen people maybe do so unfairly when they might have, some reasons to believe something. And even if they lose that belief, they've done it so from a dishonest means, rather than come to that conclusion that the belief is false through a more rational method. Does that make sense?
I totally hear where you're coming from. To try to cooperate on this point, I would maybe change it just a little bit to say that one of the things you can discuss with your conversation partner is how much you should trust logical arguments versus empirical evidence. And that's something for your conversation partner to decide for themselves. It's not for me to tell them.
Okay, so when it comes to logical arguments, I mean, you're not familiar with me. Somebody in your audience knows about me. I have logical arguments that I actually do. I read a blog, epistemology blog. I have novel logical arguments. I'm trying to publish one right now. And when it comes to these logical arguments,
I'll be the person who interrupts, but I just want to make sure we introduce the other 2 people.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
added to the call.
Yeah, by all means.
Can we get some names for the other 2 people?
Yeah, I'm Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi. I do a study group here in South Dakota every Saturday morning for 2 hours. I've been doing it for about 6 months. So
a study group related to street epistemology or religion or
street epistemology specifically. Yep.
Excellent. You say your name is Kevin?
Yep, Kevin.
Okay. And who's our last caller?
Hi, I'm Rob. I don't YouTube anything related to SE, but I've been sort of following the Discords and following the content of all you folks quite a lot. There's lots of good stuff to learn here, I think. Excellent.
Thanks for calling in, Rob. So we've heard from Steve, sort of raised the question of are logical or rational reasons for believing how they relate to empirical reasons for believing. Does anybody else have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, actually, that ties into sort of the feedback that I'd wanted to present, is that
Excellent.
there's a useful question in whether or not certain irrational beliefs need to be discarded when there isn't evidence to hold them, assuming that irrational belief still has good predictive power, or is beneficial without being damaging to anyone else, perhaps. So we can hold irrational beliefs, or we can hold beliefs that we can't yet rationalize, but we have utility for them. So I guess what it sounded like with this particular conversation was that the caller finds utility in their faith, and they are aware that their confidence in their claim is not proof for or against the actual truth of the claim. And they're taking the SE stance of trying to establish confidence as if the SE practitioner is saying, if I lower your confidence, the truth of your claim lowers along with it. And so when they approach it like that, then they see, you using confidence as a gauge as an attempt to undermine the truth of their claim. And they're saying, well, obviously that doesn't work. That doesn't impact the truth of my claim. My claim is true or false, independent of my confidence in the truth. But again,
I'm curious,
a different thought.
Lisa and Janosch, because you both run these practice sessions. Do you ever run into the situation where people are like, I don't have evidence, but I have rational reasons or logical reasons to believe? How do you navigate those kinds of conversations?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have an example. Maybe not rational, logical reasons. I've had a conversation with someone who said that the reason for their belief was that they felt it was good to believe in it, not because they were really confident that it was true.
Like it makes them a better person.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That'd be a pragmatic reason.
Pragmatic. That's a good word.
Right.
Yeah.
Pragmatic. Yeah. And that was a God belief. I don't know if the reason was it makes me a better person, or it's a good force in the world, or it helps me cope with things, or I don't know exactly. I don't remember exactly. And they have since changed their position on that belief. But yeah, that's an example that I can remember from the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. And we've come across that in my group as well. And I can remember back when I was a believer too. I thought I literally had logical and rational reasons for believing, because nobody ever challenged it. And I thought these were good reasons for holding this belief. And it wasn't. And I wish somebody would have done SE on me so I could have given it more thought. And because my definition of what is logical and rational was off base.
Yeah, it's an interesting little dance. I mean, I think I agree in principle with what Steve is saying. I do have my own opinions about whether, let's say, a proof is good evidence versus, I don't know. I want to emphasize evidence, evidentiary evidence.
A proof is a form of evidence. Okay, a logical proof is a very pure form. It's not
it
empirical,
totally
right?
is,
I mean,
yeah.
it's not something that we observe. It's something we test. But it's a deductive argument. Most of my arguments are deductive in nature. But a deductive argument is something that is going to say, look, if this is a valid structure, if it's by a rule of inference and the premises are true, it is a form of evidence. And evidence has different meanings. In science, evidence is what changes the likelihood of a hypothesis to be more likely true. If you have an observation, I have an hypothesis. Evidence is going to substantiate that hypothesis as being more likely than the null. But in other types of discussions, evidence can be anything you posit to somebody to say, look, this is what I want you to evaluate. For example, the people say the Bible isn't evidence, it's the claim. Well, not necessarily so. When somebody like a theist, and I happen to know Daniel, okay, I've actually met him in Texas. I was invited to speak at his book club. And I beat out Richard Carey. I got to throw that in there. And so he's a great guy, and he really does believe these things, and he knows these topics very well. But when you have something that is a logical argumentation, and people say, okay, that's not evidence to me, and they say something along the lines like somebody just did in the audience said, hey, look, if you start off with if, you're automatically being circular, and that's no, it's conditional, right? And so like when he posits, I think like
the problem, and I think we agree on this, the problem is if the person who's sort of managing the conversation tries to insert their own agenda, their own, let's say, biases. Yeah, because again, like I might have the bias that empirical evidence is better than rational evidence. I might have that bias.
Right, exactly. And Hume would argue that, you know.
But my job as a conversation facilitator is to merely point out to the person I'm talking to, I'm noticing this. How do you feel about empirical versus rational evidence?
Sure.
Because this person might say, I want to believe things that make the world better, not things that are true. For example.
But he's offering up, and I have his book, by the way, and it's a very beautiful book. I mean, but when they're offering up this evidence, like for example, like the Bible, I'm not a theologian. I have absolutely no interest in theology, to be honest with you, even though I just spent 3 hours talking about Christianity on my own channel. But when they're offering the Bible, that's evidence that they're saying, look, I'm there. Like Danny would say that the things that's held in the Bible, that's evidential to him. And you can then question those things as evidence as far as the veracity of them, if they're vertical towards reality. But to say, and I'm not saying you guys do, but some atheists say, look, the Bible is not evidence. Well, of course the Bible is evidence. It's a history book. Doesn't mean you have to accept everything in there as, you know, as the truth. I'm very much anti-young earth creationist, for example. I'm very well known in the anti-young earth creation community, even though I'm friends with a lot of the young earthers. But I would explain to them why their young earth creationism is wrong, but they're able to use the Bible as evidence to me to say, look, this is why I believe young earth creationism. And then we could talk about why we think that those justifications are incorrect.
Yeah.
Right.
So I saw you nodding your head at some point. Kevin, you have some thoughts about this?
Yeah, no, I just, you know, the whole conversation, it just felt like, no, I don't know any of the gentleman's background at all, but it really feels like he didn't want to examine, like he was trying to avoid getting into what he felt was a trap. And he's heard enough SE to feel like he was going to be trapped.
That's probably true.
That's kind of where I felt like he was skirting.
That's Daniel. Yeah, I would probably say you're on the money.
It's hard. I've gotten into the same situation. I mean, you could be right, but I've gotten into the same situation with my father. I'm trying to have conversations with, and it's gotten so tense that as soon as I ask a question, he thinks I'm trying to trap him.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a real breakdown in rapport, I think, at that point.
Right, but that's a family relationship. Those are way
it's much harder to navigate. Yeah,
exactly. Right. And
perhaps you're not going to being more charitable
and be successful. Probably right away.
Perhaps I want to be more charitable. No, perhaps I want to be more charitable than I need to be, but I feel like I agree with what Steve's saying there, and I just don't think we got to that point yet. I think there was still this impasse on what confidence even means, and whether or not there's confidence being presented as a counter argument to the claim, which I don't think we ever got past.
Yeah,
and whereas we almost needed to get Daniel to define whatever terminology, whatever word he wanted to use to describe the feeling of sureness that he is right about his truth claim. And that's all that we were really, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about exploring their confidence in the claim. But he's feeling that we're using this confidence as a counter argument to the claim.
And I think you're dead on in that. And that's why it's important when we're talking about belief systems, right? We're talking about confidence levels, and you're talking about what your epistemic certainty is. And there's difference between certainty and certitude, right? And there's difference between knowledge and belief, obviously. And people need to understand that this is a linear thing. Knowledge is a subset of belief, and certainty is the highest of all of them, epistemic certainty, like a Descartes certainty. So you don't have to have certainty to have knowledge, and you don't have to have knowledge to have belief. And so when you're just talking about a dostastic position, a belief, that's just saying that, look, I'm holding a proposition to be true. I'm holding that the propositional content is the case. And so you have to ask the interlocutor that you're having, like with Daniel, what's his confidence level as far as, like, he doesn't have to be certain. And I don't think Daniel even would ever say that he's certain on many things. There are some things you can be certain on. But when it comes to the God claim, when a theist says they're absolutely certain, there's a lot to unpack there, because they're not claiming not just a dostastic status, not just knowledge, they're claiming certainty.
let's be careful. Daniel definitely did not.
Yeah, he
claim
doesn't.
certain.
Yeah,
He said
right.
he was quite sure, and he was very clear about that.
and
So I
quite-
just want to.
Yeah, go
I'm just aware, right? There's 6 people on. No, if and we also don't have much time left in the show, so maybe we can give some parting comments. Kevin, you want to go first?
Yeah, you mean comments about this specifically, or about
Well,
HSE in
I know
general,
we
or-
sort of pulled a surprise bringing all of you on at once, and so I just want to make sure you get to say what you called in to say.
Oh yeah, basically, I was just gonna say we had some good conversations this morning in our meetings too, and just like one of the ones was we talked about fear. There was one claim that was being made that from the political side, Republicans use fear, and Democrats need to use fear more to get people out to vote.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
then so I was exploring just that. Fear. What's a world like with just fear? Just
Was that an in-person or an online meeting?
so we do a mixed meeting. We have in person
Mixed.
and
Cool.
online. Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah, we need to have a talk about the different styles of practice meetings at some point and get together, all of us. That will be fascinating to explore. But
Yeah, I would. love
Maybe
to
this
do
is a
that.
good time to mention that right after this show ends, there is an Australian practice session on Discord. I'll put the link to Discord in the comments if you're interested. So Rob, did you want to say something?
You know, I think I said what I meant to say, I guess, up front. It was just that roadblock, that brick wall we seem to keep hitting about, you know, I think we all know what we mean by confidence. But in this case, I think confidence was being interpreted as a proof, or as an actual counter argument. So, and I mean, all his objections were perfectly reasonable objections if you assume that confidence lowering would change the actual truth claims, truthiness.
Yeah.
But yeah, that seems to be the roadblock we're up against. And I don't know what kind of ground we can give and say, you know, for sure, I agree. Changing your confidence does not have any impact on the truth claim.
Yeah.
So
I think
now
I
that we
understand
put
where
that
it's coming
aside,
from now. Yeah,
now
exactly.
that we put that all aside, what's the next thing? So if confidence is off the table now, how do you define your sureness in the claim? I don't know, maybe there's another word we have to find, or maybe we just need to find what they're because we're just we know what we're after, but
it's a great example of how every conversation is different and every person is different. They're bringing something to the conversation. You have to listen to them and see where they're coming from. And I think if we had more time, I think we could have skirted around this issue about confidence and this kind of stuff. Scott, any final words?
You mean Steve?
Steve, I'm sorry. That's just
no worries. No. Like I said, I wanted to say what I want to say. I would be happy to have a conversation about epistemology with you directly one of these days if you're interested. Again, you know, I think it's important that when people do these types of things, that they take an epistemological approach, because I when I do watch these things, I see some misinformation being bantered about when it comes to things like what a belief is. I've had people tell me they don't even have beliefs. I call them dosastic nihilists. It makes no sense, right? I've had people tell me things that I've told them they're objectively a fact, right? Not just subjective. God is a subjective belief, right? I mean, there is no objective fact of the matter that I think exists on that. But there are certain things that are just objective facts that I've had people don't accept. They will say that, you know, that's not true. And I'm like, well, it's irrational to not accept something if it's an objective fact that can be demonstrated easily. Like, for example, A equals A. If you don't accept that, there might be an issue there, right? And so I just think that in the street epistemology, I think it was Rob or Roy, Rob, spot on. When it comes to the terminology and the vernacular, you're dealing with a very specific types of words that your interlocutor may not be familiar with and have a very different mindset of what they mean when it comes to confidence, when it comes to surety, indubitability, certitude, certainty. They all mean different things, especially even in literature. And I think that there's that impasse when you're talking to somebody like Daniel, who's very articulate, very well read, very educated. I know his background. I know what he's capable of. I know who he associates with. And like you said, he's already 5 steps, 6 steps ahead of you on that.
Well, not to cast a negative light on Daniel's motive specifically. I don't imagine that he has negative motives in that way.
No,
but
no. He's a good guy.
I think there is going to be a very simple trend, not simple trend, but a logical trend amongst apologetics or apologists and amongst people that are speaking to their fellow co-religionists, I suppose, and giving them when those people are coming to them and saying, yeah, I saw this SE conversation and it really kind of made me worry about whether or not my God claim is true because my confidence was changed. And they're going to say, well, you don't have to worry about that because your confidence doesn't affect the truth of the claim. So you can you can still be just as sure in the claim, but don't worry that they told you your confidence changed. So I think that's a trend that we're going to see more of as a counter apologetic to the approach of SE when it's applied specifically to religion.
All right. I think this has been fascinating. Thanks for calling in. Janosch,
I've just had one more thought. I believe that it's called street epistemology for a reason, and usually we use intuitive definitions of these terms, like, for example, confidence. Most people, neither the interlocutors nor the interviewers, are even aware of the very specific definitions of certainty, certitude, confidence, all of that. And I think there's that's an advantage because you can just go out and have conversations with anyone. But it also means that sometimes when you have studied philosophy and epistemology and you have all this academic understanding of it, that can get in the way even of having a...
No, I agree with you with that. Yeah, I agree with you.
I was going to say that same thing. Even the last few shows that I've watched, there's been a lot of very studied people, and it's kind of taken the street out of it. And I think it actually takes away from what we're trying to do when we get into the weeds like that, into that side of it. So
I guess I'd say and again, you really need to meet people where they're at. If someone is, aligns themselves as an academic, you have to have that conversation, and maybe you're not the person to do it.
You can't have one size fits all, right?
I just want to make sure that we have time to wrap up the show. So I really appreciate you all calling in. Thanks so much for your input. Yep, nice meeting you all.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, Janosch. Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe adding 3 was a little much, but it was, hey, we're trying, right?
Try to squeeze everything in.
We're experimenting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment real quick?
Yeah.
For me, I tune out and kind of get bored when it gets deep dive into the philosophy of everything. Like, I just don't care about that. For me, it's about talking to people and finding out what they believe and their definitions of the words. And the I don't know, education level doesn't interest me. Like, I like talking to normal people who are like me, I guess. Like, I just don't care about philosophy that much. It's not a thing I'm into, but I love talking to people and I want to hear what they believe and what they think and why they think it. So, and most people aren't into philosophy either. So it's a very small percentage, and I understand why they want to talk about it and get into it, and with other people who also love it. Like, go for it, do that. But for me, street epistemology is more about normal, everyday people, just figuring out with my friends and family what they're thinking.
Yeah. We've got both takes in chat. One person saying, let's keep the street in a street epistemology, and another person saying a street epistemologist who doesn't know philosophy isn't doing epistemology. So we've got both sides.
I get that too. Yeah. And like, am I not allowed to do it if I haven't studied philosophy? Or, I mean, is there a education limit level you have to reach before you're qualified to practice? I want everybody to learn the techniques. I want my kids my teenagers to learn, just to learn how to use that line of questioning.
Yeah. I mean, I think someone who's really mired in the philosophy, I'd want to ask them, like, is this sort of complicated chain of things really the reason that you think that if you open the window, things are still going to be right side up? Like, it's probably experiential. It's probably, the consistency of it. And it's not it's not anything philosophical, but that maybe I have a bias. Yeah.
We all do.
That's for sure. Yeah. So we've only got a few minutes left. I just wanted to make sure we had time together to sort of take a breath and wrap things up. So anything we want to mention? I think I said the Australian practice session meets right after the show ends, and I put a link in the chat. Anything else?
Linda.
Lisa. Yeah.
Lisa, sorry.
I get called Linda a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get into more putting groups together and meetup groups and in person. So anybody who's interested in doing that in their area, like I'm trying to put a packet together, or just like a document of some sort to help people get started in that. So I've been working on that, and I'm open to feedback and information, or anybody else who has ideas too. And I'll share what I've learned and what works and what I've tried that hasn't worked. And I think it's been really helpful and really good to have in-person conversations and to spread the word and teach other people how to use street epistemology. So
super
that's my
cool. Yeah,
thing
I hope
now.
Kevin contacts you. He has
Yeah,
a group,
I'd love to.
yeah.
I'd like to talk to him. Yeah.
And actually, I want to just chime in with that and say, because some people know I'm on the board of Street Epistemology International, and I am since I've built up this German language community, and I do have some experience with that, but I don't really have experience with in-person meetings that much. So, but I think it would be great if we could just all get together and, like you said, we've had that thought before as well, make a package for new groups that form and help them find other people interested in SE, etc. Yes, that would be great to do that. So yeah, maybe we can cooperate on that. And then another thing is that it's great that at the beginning, at first we were doing the review shows, and those weren't call-in shows. It was just a panel of people. Then we did the call-in shows, and there were interactions were increasing, but now we are having so many callers, which is great. And I think it looks like people are really interested in getting on the show, talking, asking questions, having these interviews live. So yeah, I think that's working out great.
Yeah, I thought it was a good balance of commentary and also doing SE conversations. I think we want to do both. Yeah.
Right, and of course we're if you want to, if you have any suggestions for improving the show, just feel free to criticize or tell us how great we were doing.
Yeah, and if anyone, I don't know if anybody's still here in the audience, but if you talk to us and you want to continue these conversations, you can contact me. Probably both of you would also be interested in that.
Absolutely.
And we could record a whole 2-hour conversation going through something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for letting me join today. That was fun.
Absolutely. I'm so glad. I mean, you had just the right knowledge. We're talking all about this in-person stuff. We met a person who I've never seen in the community who's doing this. It seems like you all have a lot to share with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard starting out too when you don't know. You're starting from scratch. So making these connections is going to be really helpful going forward.
Yeah. All right. So I think that'll be it for today. We're going to try to do this every Saturday at the same time. So I hope to see you next time.
And everyone head on over to the Australian practice session if you want.
That's right. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.